Coming up now on Animal Outtakes, they're the garbage collectors of the water. These volunteers are making a difference by removing trash that's found underwater, and you won't believe what they find. Their brains are about the size of a quarter, but does that mean these reptiles are lacking intelligence? Our Inspector Planet is putting these gators to the test to see if they are smart. And
this is a type of ball python. It's called a pewter, which is a pastel cinnamon.
have you ever wondered about having a snake as a pet? We'll learn all about the care that goes into these serpents. This and much more straight ahead on Animal Outtakes. If you're like me and you're outside and you notice a piece of trash on the ground, you pick it up and you throw it away. But what about all that trash you can't see? All the trash that ends up in the water. And some of it can be especially harmful to our underwater friends. We recently got the chance to see the Suncoast Reef Rovers in action. They are volunteers who are dedicated to cleaning up their local waters. And you won't believe some of the things they find.
Suncoast Reef Rovers started night before 2000. It's just a group of local divers. We have been doing community service events for the last 20 years. We do a total of 6 underwater cleanups every year. The main thing our group is focusing on is the marine environment. As you've seen, a lot of the stuff that comes up that kind of causes a chain reaction. One fishing pole and some line leads to another fishing pole that gets snagged, and over time we just have larger and larger masses of monofilament and cast nets that accumulate. The wildlife gets tangled up in it. It's not able to break free. So by pulling this stuff up every year, we make the environment better for all the marine life. On average, we probably bring up anywhere from 800 to 1,000 pounds per event. Some of our bigger events, we bring up 5,000 to 6,000 pounds of stuff. So we figure we probably average 8,000 to 10,000 pounds a year, and we've been bringing it up for almost 20 years.
And what we see are fishing traps, we see nets, we see piles and bundles of fishing gear and line and fishing poles, and while it's down there, those nets just continue to fish. They ghost fish. They catch fish, they get caught, something comes to eat that fish, they get caught. We've already freed a couple of animals today. Sarasota Baywatch likes to institute what we consider best practices for our recycling. So rather than take this, send all this line to the landfill where there's a lot of birds that will also get tangled in it, we take all the line, the nets, the rope, and we work with a NOAA group called Fishing for Energy, and it's a program where all of that debris is burned and they create electricity from it.
Today was our most unique. We brought up a drone, but drones have become more popular. They weren't as popular. We've brought up a couple of guns in the past that we've had to deal with as far as a crime scene. We've brought up jewelry cases. We've brought up fishing tackle boxes. We've brought up benches. We've brought up handicap signs, crab traps, cast nets, fishing poles, monofilament line, knives, poles, all that stuff is what we bring up. It's one of those out of sight, out of mind, so it is one of those situations where unfortunate today we have low visibility, but when we have high visibility and the number of divers that we have today, it's a lot easier to see stuff. But if you can envision a very dark, black algae mass of the rocks, and then you've got all this trash that gets snagged inside of it. The divers are literally working a foot at a time, trying to bring stuff to the surface.
It was weird down there, you couldn't see, like this far.
So that we can haul it up and haul it out of here, and it doesn't cause that chain reaction. Wildlife gets trapped inside of it, they get on a hook, and then they end up, there's nothing they can do. Crab traps that are lost, they'll get trapped inside, they won't be able to get released. So anything that we do pull up, if it's got anything live inside of it, we do toss it back in. There are spots that you can put your marine debris and you can tuck it into the little PVC tube that they have so that the pelicans, birds don't eat it. Other wildlife doesn't get trapped inside of it. If nothing else, just bringing it up, setting it next to the trash can, the county will haul it away. A lot of our stuff we recycle. We use the lead again. We use the monofilament. We're very happy that we have Sarasota Baywatch has been a great group with us and could not do this without the City of Venice.
Well, originally I joined the Suncoast Reef Rovers to be able to have a group of people to dive, and I didn't realize at the time that the Reef Rovers do so much ocean stewardship and so much cleanup for the community that it really inspired me and my son, who also joined. 3 weeks ago, a manhole cover. How would you figure that got there? Everything from a pistol has been found. I found at the Sharkey's Pier an antenna, 35-foot long roof antenna. And how would that get there? All kinds of crazy things are beneath there. And to think if we didn't clean these things up, they would still be there piling on top of each other year after year. So this type of cleanup is so important to the environment and to keep it a good, safe area for everyone to enjoy.
If we all do our part and pick up trash we see laying around, or even start eliminating the amount of trash we put out, we could really make an impact on the health of the animals on land and in the water. Stay with us. Our Inspector Planet is attempting what I see as the impossible. I mean, really, she's gonna see if gators are trainable. Seriously?
Is that right?
It's a little more in your cheeks.
Every dog deserves a lifelong loving home. Dante's Den provides a pristine, comfortable haven for dogs that have been abandoned or surrendered by their owners. We ensure that every pup in our Joyful Dogs adoption program receives lots of love and attention, is properly immunized, spayed or neutered, and is in good health. Prospective pet parents undergo a thorough adoption review to ensure a lifetime of love and care. Find your new furry best friend at Dante's Den. For more information, go to dantesden.org. Dante's Den, continuing the love. Science is everywhere, and it's all around us. It's observing the world, forming questions, and the willingness to find the answers. It's something our Inspector Planet does every day, and you can too.
My name is Dr. Tracy Fanara, research scientist and environmental engineer. At Moat Marine Laboratory, I use investigation and experimentation to answer questions. Now, I've spent a lot of time with alligators. In fact, I consider them some of my closest friends. But the question is, are they actually able to be trained? So I have seen you train these gators, work with these gators. Are gators domestic?
They're not domesticated. They're wild animals. Certain individuals can definitely become so comfortable around people that they can be habituated to where they kind of know the drill and they know you're not necessarily a walking hamburger, but they're not puppy dogs or anything like that. They're all individuals. I've met some really calm alligators and some really crazy crocodiles and vice versa. Really crazy crocodiles and really nice alligators.
So they actually have personalities?
Yeah, they do.
Like that guy just stepped on that guy's head.
Yeah, they have no table manners.
No, not at all. As far as conditioning goes, Are they intelligent? Can you actually train an alligator?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can't teach an alligator how to do something a dolphin does, you know,
Right.
because they're individuals and they all kind of operate differently. But for what they can do and for what they need to do, they're incredibly smart. So when it comes to getting their food, they're really, really clever. They have to outfox their dinner. You know, that's what makes them smart. Out in the wild, they have to pick up on the way their prey animals behave. So yeah, when it comes to getting their food, very, very smart. These guys are pretty much blind just because they're albino. Alligators in general do have very good eyesight. We're relatively limited on what we can do with them because they are pretty much blind, but they are trained to respond to a certain call. So I could show it off. We'll come over here. I want you to practice after me so I don't sound so crazy too. But see, they know the drill. It's all for that food. So yeah, alligators and crocodiles, like I said, they're pretty much blind. They totally miss it. There he goes.
There he goes. Okay. So if I go over there, can I try calling him that way?
Absolutely. I'll give you a couple nuggets of food.
Oh,
and if they follow you, I would pretty much get there and then start doing that popping call and then just toss it to the side of their face.
They look
kinda
like
bite.
poop.
Yeah.
What are these? What are they made of?
Oh, it's what you think. No, I'm just kidding. It's made almost like a dog food. So this is, it's called crock chow.
Okay.
It's dehydrated chicken, fish, and then there's some grain in it too, but it has all like the calcium, minerals, and nutrients an alligator would need to survive a happy, healthy life. A lot of facilities will just feed them this and that's it. Depending on how many people we do this with a week, we'll also supplement these guys' diet with things like chicken and rats, fish. We kind of try to switch it up for them.
Is that right?
It's a little more in your cheeks. There it is, there it is. Oh look, and he knows it.
Yes!
You can give him a nugget. There you go, you can give her one too for coming all the way over here.
So that was absolutely incredible. It's amazing to learn that gators can actually be trained to come when called. Remember guys, anyone can be a scientist or an engineer with some passion, hard work, and an innate curiosity of how the world works.
Coming up next on Animal Outtakes, hop on board as we're exploring an extremely unique ecosystem and discovering the animals that live there.
People have asked me what it'll cost to restore all the corals back to the way they remember. But I have to ask them, what will it cost if we don't do anything?
Estuaries play an important role in the health of our environment overall. And there are a lot of animals that are essential to the well-being of this unique and often overlooked ecosystem.
As a biologist for Sarasota Bay Explorers, our job is to narrate the experience and make it fun for people so that they can learn and they're interested in learning the health of the bay and the animals in it. And the goal for us is to make it meaningful enough to them to where they're inspired to take more action in helping their environment, helping our environment. We really try to bring people to a different level of consciousness so that we're making a difference in the world. 1, 2, 3. We actually threw a trawl net out into the water and we caught some animals. We are permitted to do this, so we have permission to use this type of net and to collect these animals. I see some fish. We do release them at the end of the day. So no grouper sandwiches, no crab cakes for anybody. So today we went out on the water and we actually caught a lot of animals. We are permitted to catch these animals and they will be released at the end of the day. But some of the fun ones that we caught include a couple species of crab. This one in particular is a hermit crab. You can tell because it's really shy, but it's working its way out. Hermit crabs and other species of crab are very unique because not only can they breathe in air, but they breathe really successfully underwater. They're one of the only animals that I know of that have that capacity in their lung structure to be able to be in and outside of water. And once they get big enough, they'll shed whichever shell they've picked up and go find a new one that's larger, big enough to fit their new body. The mud crab is a little bit different because when it gets too big for its body, it will totally shed that carapace or the shell and regrow a new one organically on its own. At the point when it's regrowing that harder shell, it's called a soft shell crab. So soft shell crabs are not a specific species, they're any crab that has shedded its exoskeleton or gone through that process of molting and the newer shell hasn't quite hardened yet. So this is the mud crab. They have tiny little hairs all over their body, and guess what? They hide in the mud, giving it that name, the mud crab.
Stay with us. There's more animal outtakes coming up next.
There's over 4,000 different ball pythons. This is a type of ball python. It's called a pewter, which is a pastel cinnamon. They typically have a lifespan up to 25 years, but I have seen some live up to 30 to 40. Their care is generally pretty simple. They eat about once a week. depending on the size of them. They have about a 90-degree hot spot, an 80-degree cool spot, and an 85-degree ambient. They are from Africa, and they live in termite mountains in the wild, so they love to hide, so a couple hides in their cage is great. And generally you want to fill the cage with a little bit of foliage, so like plants and stuff, typically fake, and that makes them feel comfortable and safe. That's all they care about typically. And then a small to medium-sized water dish, just for them to drink out of and soak a little bit if they need to. But typically you're just trying to get the ambient temperature up to 84 to 85. They're cold-blooded, so that's how they digest their food. So they need that temperature, or else a lot of problems will go on. They can get respiratory problems. If it's too hot, they can get burns and rashes and stuff like that. And other problems can happen if it's all about temperature with them. If it's off, they a lot of times will go off feed. They're very particular with that kind of stuff. You need to keep the cage misted. It needs to have about a 60 to 70% humidity. So you want to keep the soil kind of wet, where if you grab it and you squeeze it, it's not going to drip, but you can feel that's wet in there. And then other than that, you just want to make sure that the humidity is the main part with them. They don't really need to soak them. They should shed just fine doing that. And with the question of mites, mites are, I would say, pretty common in the reptile world. You just want to make sure you want to check your snake. The spots you check your snake is going to be towards the vent right here by the butt. You can look down the belly, you'd almost see it. And then you look right underneath, right here, right in between that slit right there. And you see, that's the most common spot you'll see them. They're gonna eat rats and mice. Most of the time when they get big like this, they're gonna be eating like a small to medium rat size. And they eat that once a week. Females get about 4 to 5 feet, and then males get about 3 to 4. Typically the males stay smaller than the females, but once in a while the male will get bigger. With any pet you have, is just do your research and decide what you want. There's over 4,000 different ball python morphs, so you want to make sure you know what you're getting, and you want to make sure you get the one that you like.
I was kind of trolling on Facebook, and I saw a word, Dr. Glassman, zoonotic. And I said, what is that? And much to my surprise, this is a real problem.
Well, zoonotic diseases are a whole host of diseases that can be transmitted between animals and people, or wild animals, cats and dogs, our pets. And people are familiar with a lot of them. Probably the most important, because it's really fatal, is rabies. Most people are familiar with rabies, of course, because we get our cats and dogs vaccinated for rabies. And it's a deadly virus transmitted by saliva from the animal. When you get bitten by an animal that has it, or even licked a wound, a scratch, it's in the saliva. And transmitted mostly in the wild to people from skunks, raccoons, foxes, and bats. So if your pet gets it, then it can transmit it to us. And we have a rabies law in every state of the nation, from what I understand, because it's a deadly virus for people. The state doesn't care about distemper and parvo, because it doesn't care if your pet dies of distemper and parvo. So there's no law on that one. So it's just on rabies.
Now, as you know, Dr. Glassman, you attended to one of our wonderful dogs here, Bear. And when Bear came in, he had mange. And you cautioned us we had to be in gowns, masks, gloves.
Did I say all that?
You said all of that, and then some. And so we did. We donned our uniforms.
Scabies is not a serious disease. It's a mite that lives under the skin, primarily of dogs, and it will get on us and it will bite us, and it'll cause a rash, pretty much, because it doesn't live on us and stay and burrow under our skin. So it's contagious to people in the sense that it'll bite you. It's like, oh, this isn't a dog, and it just jumps off, but you'll get a rash from it. So it's a minor zoonotic disease.
Ringworm.
Ringworm is one of the most common, and again, in general, not serious. It's a fungus. It's not a worm in any way, shape, or form like people think of worms. Ringworm, it gets its name because if you get it, it enlarges in sort of a circular fashion, like a little rash. So that's how it got its name, ringworm. But it's a common fungus, and it's common more in kittens and puppies. So if you get a new kitten and puppy from a shelter or a pet store, it may have some hair loss, some scaly, crusty areas, and then you can get it. And not a big deal for the average person. You get some standard lotions and you get rid of it. Only if you're immune compromised, cancer therapy, things like that, then those diseases can become serious. But in general, not a serious disease, but definitely probably one of the most common zoonotic diseases.
And one of the most common questions that we get here at Dante's Hospital is, we have parasites, the dog has parasites, are we going to get the parasites?
Right, roundworms, hookworms, very serious if people get them. The parasites, the worms live in the intestinal tract of the animals and they shed in the fecal matter microscopic eggs. Now, so the danger is if, especially children, playing in dirt, whatever, touch some feces, eat the microscopic egg, then it gets into us and can cause very serious issues, potentially life-threatening for some of them, rare ones. But yeah, so parasites, as in most diseases, bacteria, viruses, whatever, washing your hands, just basic good hygiene, wash your hands if you've been near, an animal that looks sick or you've touched some fecal matter, of course. Just so good basic hygiene will prevent most of these things. But little children, of course, are the ones that often get infected because it's a fecal oral contamination.
So you would say when we suspect that an animal has got some of these maladies, that we get it to our vet right away to ask about what's going on, and our veterinarian will also advise us if we need to be careful.
Correct.
This show is produced by Dante's Den Foundation, a lifetime care facility for our four-legged friends. Hundreds of Dante's dogs have been adopted, but there are some who need constant care and will stay here at our sanctuary forever. Like Joey. Just look into his eyes. This Basset Hound is just the sweetest. He was dropped off by his owners because, according to them, he was just too old. He's 12 now and has arthritis. He needs injections to keep him out of pain and to keep him more mobile. But Joey reminds us that having a warm bed and a best friend like Bear make for a swell life in his senior years. We hope you had fun and learned a thing or two along the way. We'll be back here again next week with even more animals and some wild adventures. Until then, thanks for watching.
You really have to find out the way they tick. Don't worry, you're totally fine. A lot of times he'll just pop his head up like this. So in theory, and of course maybe he'll make me look foolish. In theory though, he should back right down in the water. If he does, I'm gonna reward him. He'll just ease in, we'll say good boy, and he'll get rewarded. So that's
Hold on. Okie dokie.
Might have gotten in the way.
Yes, it might have. Are you, okay. She's bothering me.